In this video, we are joined by a very special guest, Jack from the DSNY Newscast. We are talking all about, hey, we're going to talk about Josh D'Amaro. We're going to talk about Epic Universe. We're even going to dive into this Pandora Avatar thing over at DCA of all places. We got Jack with us from DSNY up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to a very special edition of Orange Grove 55. We have a fantastic panel today. We're talking Walt Disney World. We're talking Disneyland. We're going bi-coastal. But before we dive into our topics today, I want to introduce very special guest, Jack, from the one and only DSNY Newscast. Hey, welcome. First time on the channel, Jack. Appreciate you, man.
Hi there, Chris. Hi there, George. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on Orange Grove 55. I've actually seen your channel many times in the past, and I really appreciate the work you do within the Disney community to offer out your logic and your analysis that you give out into the community. So really appreciate that. I'm glad to be on, and let's talk some Disney.
Yeah, no, 100%. If you could just kind of remind everybody where they can find you on social media, so they can follow you or subscribe to you on all your socials.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter,
yes.
I'm on Instagram, just all the usual stuff under DSNY Newscast. I don't usually do much plugging of my channel and stuff like that, but if you want to find me, the name's there in the corner. So yeah.
Absolutely. Check him out. Jack does phenomenal work. The OG 55 crew here, we've been fans of Jack's for a long time. He does great stuff over there. So make sure you check him out. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Right over here, I got George, as he calls himself, the Italiano, host of our Walt Disney World show here on OG 55. George, welcome back on the show, brother.
Thanks. I'm glad to be back on. This is going to be a great show. I was really looking forward to this. As I mentioned before the start of the recording, I'm a huge fan of Jack. I'm a huge fan of the channel, the work. I followed him from the very beginning. So just to be able to have a conversation, just talk all things Disney, it's going to be a great show. But before we get into it, if you'd like to find me on social media, you can do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Let's dive.
He's got a much better plug than me. You do it much better than me, George. I had to go. I'm on DSNY Newscast on YouTube.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Like, that's awesome. That just made my day.
Yeah, George goes all in.
You were a pin winner, DSNY pin winner.
Yes. Yeah? I was back in, I believe it was 2019. I was actually, because I just recently moved, so I'm like going through like all boxes and bins trying to find that pin because I was actually going to wear it today. But it was such a great feeling that out of all the answers to your question that you picked mine, I was like, I ran over to my mom's house. I was like, I just want a DSNY pin.
It's so weird because like I've stopped doing them now because it just became so like, number one, like I was giving out the same pin to the same people because they kept coming back with some good suggestions each time. I'm like, but that is legitimately the best answer to the question. And I was like, oh, you want it before, have you? Okay. And I had that once or twice happen with a couple of people. I was like, maybe it's about time to retire this if we're getting to that stage. But I think you got one of the enamel pins.
I did.
Early.
Yes,
because
I did.
early on they were just like the simple button ones. And then I did these enamel ones for Patreon, and any that I had left over, I'd sometimes use for the pin winners. So you got one of those. I don't know what design you got, but yeah, you got one of them.
Nice.
Yeah, I believe it was the one where it's like the half pink, half blue, and with the Mickey hand. Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
I'm a Waltoneer all the way.
Yeah. Perfect. Now, Jack, I want to pick your brain on this. Okay, we've talked a lot about it on the channel, but I really want to dive into this with you. So, Disney World expansion, right? There's been a lot of talk, and we'll get into Epic Universe because I do think that's tied into this whole conversation. But so when Josh D'Amaro gets out there at like D23 or Destination D, right? He does a lot of these like now famous like what if, right? Like, hey, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. You know, imagine the possibilities. In your opinion, when are they going to actually put shovel to pavement and start, you know?
It annoys me, to be honest. It's so they keep stringing us along, don't they? They just with these Destination D and D23 expos. You know, how I will give it to Josh D'Amaro. He is like the king of like filler, and he's the king of like vamp. You know, he can just stand. You can tell him, you know, popcorn bucket, go half an hour, and he can do it. You know, oh my god, this popcorn bucket is the best thing ever. He will make it sound so. He's very slick. Okay, I'll give him that. He's a good presenter from that standpoint. Right. But the content, the Chapek presentations. Chapek didn't have that pizzazz. He didn't have that stage presence. So he knew he had to load up his presentations with a lot more newsworthy topics to get the applause line, to get that kind of crowd reaction. D'Amaro can do it with a wink and a smile, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't go in for any of that. I don't buy into any of that. But when it comes to when they're going to start doing this, I think you've got to look at the timeline. And so next year they've got Tiana's Bayou Adventure happening at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Then 2025 they have nothing in Walt Disney World ready to go at all. But I don't think they will need anything because Epic Universe is obviously opening just down, 7 miles down the street. And with Epic Universe opening, they know a lot of people are going to be coming to Epic Universe. And all that Disney will have to do then is just offer a very competitive ticket package, a bundle. And they'll get all of those guests who are going to just do Epic Universe. Let's throw Disney in there as well. So they'll be okay for 2025. And I think that's what they're betting on. 2026 is where we start to get a bit more of an issue. I think 2026, originally, they were planning to hopefully have something ready to go by 2026. But they might just keep that competitive ticket bundle going into 2026 or maybe do some sort of very minor, thing. And when I say minor, I mean like, we've got a new nighttime parade, which they keep, that's been sat there in the Imagineering locker for long enough now. They know that if they decide to announce a nighttime parade at Walt Disney World, they know that their tickets will get a boost during the summer. So they've got that. They can, lean more into entertainment in 2026 if they want to. A bit like what they did back in 2014, just after Frozen became a massive thing, the Frozen Summer Fun or whatever it was called.
Right.
Before they had Frozen Ever After ready to go in 2016. They knew they had to have something in between. So they relied on entertainment. So that's what I expect them to do for 2025, 2026. But 2027 is where I think is most realistic that they could have something open. But they need the shovels, like you say, Chris, they need the shovels in the ground beginning January. They need to start as soon as possible, really. We're in the new fiscal year, so that opens up new possibilities. They keep talking all about this turbocharging and all the it is annoying, isn't it? Because it's all this
like bumper sticker buzzwordy.
Yeah. And there's only so many videos I could possibly do on a topic like that before I just go, you know what, guys, they're not doing anything until we actually see artwork or something, then I'll do it, But yeah, interesting to know what your opinion is on when you think that will happen. It's
interesting. I'm pretty much in the same spot as you. Like, I think that Epic Universe will actually bring some folks over to Disney. Like, we've actually had a little preview, so to speak, out here in California with maybe what you guys can expect over there in Orlando, because we just got Super Nintendo World out here in Universal Hollywood, and it's been a huge success over there. I mean, Universal's packed. It's been very, very successful. But Disneyland has actually seen pretty robust crowds, like even with these quarterly earnings reports, you see that Disneyland's pretty solid. They're holding their own. So I think that some of that is spillover from Super Nintendo World, admittedly. Now we do have Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway, which I think is also a factor. But so I agree with you, Jack. I think that when Epic opens, I do think it will bring some folks in because, hey, it's the new thing. And if you're in Orlando, I mean, you can't miss Walt Disney World. You got to at least go to some of these parks. So it will definitely spill over. We got Tiana's coming up, which I'm actually, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm actually kind of excited for Tiana's. I mean, I think they know how important this is, and I think they're going to come through with this thing. We'll see. What are your thoughts on that, Jack? In terms of like this retheme, we don't know a lot about it really, but do you think it'll deliver, or
So, I mean, coming back to your Disneyland point, it's like the rising tide lifts all ships kind of philosophy, isn't it? And that's what they're betting on. I think Walt Disney World, TDO, Team Disney Orlando, they are betting on this whole idea of rising tide lifts all ships, and they're betting that Epic Universe is going to help them out an awful lot. I do think that when it comes to Tiana's, I'm not personally really that excited for it. I'm sure it'll be a good attraction. I'm sure that they'll do a good job with it. At least I hope they do. But we haven't seen the animatronics yet. We haven't seen, a lot of the set decoration, the set design. We don't know what the music's going to be like in the attraction, because I know they did the whole pivot from the original. Oh, this is going to be original music, and then we're like, oh no, actually, we'll use the soundtrack, because the soundtrack is very, very, it's a solid soundtrack. I do like the Princess and the Frog soundtrack by Randy Newman. It was a great soundtrack. And so they pivoted towards using that music. And, when it comes to the Imagineers on the actual case, you got Carmen Smith, Sharita Carter, and Ted, what's his name? Ted Rabido? Something like that.
So,
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And Ted is actually an Imagineer who worked. Sorry, if the screen's moving slightly, it's the table. Sorry. Yeah, just gonna say that. Yeah, Ted is the guy that kind of worked on like New Fantasyland and Beauty and the Beast, and Be Our Guest and stuff like that, and Little Mermaid. So he has experience working on like Fantasyland style attractions and doing that kind of style of attraction at Magic Kingdom before. And I think he may have worked over in Tokyo Disney on the Beauty and the Beast project over there as well. So he's kind of like the Imagineer who knows theming and, that kind of side of things. And then you've got Sharita Carter, who obviously worked on Runaway Railway with Kevin Rafferty. But she kind of handled the kind of projection element to it all, the technology side of things. I know she has an accountancy background. She kind of came up through Imagineering in the accountancy route, and then she kind of like did a pivot with Runaway Railway, where she was doing kind of the finance side of Runaway Railway, but then also doing some of the projection stuff as well on the technology. So she kind of like pioneered the projection mapping within Imagineering and saw it as a way to try and add new life to all these attractions. And then Carmen Smith, she is very clearly she's been brought in to handle the diversity and the heritage and all that sort of stuff, the authenticity side of things. The storyline is where I've got a bit of an issue. I think it's very convoluted. And
I agree.
All I would want is a book style report attraction. That's all I want. I want to enjoy the music. I want to go down the bayou with Lewis and Tiana and Naveen. I just want all that. And I know people say, but the issue is that then Tiana and Naveen are frogs throughout most of the attraction. You could do it a different way. You could condense down the frog part of it to just literally one or two scenes and lengthen out the before and after part if they wanted to, and go a bit further, a bit like what they did with Frozen Ever After, something like that. Right. I'm just not very excited for the story of, it's a co-op and, it's been community bought and, now they've got shipment of beignets coming in. Like, it doesn't say to me, this is a thrill ride. And
Right.
that's my concern. And that is what Splash Mountain is. It's a thrill ride. It's a
Yeah.
water thrill ride.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you bring up a great point too. A lot of the greatest Disney attractions have the most simplest kind of concepts, right? Like, so you look at Big Thunder. It's a train
I
in the
thought you were
south,
gonna say that, yeah.
right? Train in the southwest. You got Space Mountain.
Run
It's
away.
a rock.
Yeah.
It's a rocket in space. These are very simple ideas, but you go into the Tiana's and it's like you were saying, Jack, it's like, okay, it's a salt mine co-op. Like, we're looking for the ingredient. They're getting into kind of like in story knots.
Why do we need to know that it's a community bought co-op, and Tiana, in the Disney Parks blog thing, it said like, Tiana runs a thing to teach all the kids in the local community how to cook. Why do I need to know that for the attraction? Like, I get it. It's good to have backstory. It's good to have that backstory, but it's not selling anybody on the ride. At least it wasn't selling me on the ride. It would sell me on the ride to see the animatronic or hear the music or see more concept art. That's what would sell me on the ride.
And if it's not selling us as the Disney fanatics we are, what is it going to do for a normie? Someone that's just coming into the park, they just want a good family attraction or a good thrill ride. They're not going to look at those little nitty-gritty details of what the backstory is. And honestly, if you are a norm, you're going to look at, if you've seen the movie, I'm going on a ride that's inspired by The Princess and the Frog. And then when they get on the ride or in the queue line, they're like, this is nothing of the movie.
Yeah. Well, George, you brought up a great point on several videos. Your idea for the lift hill. With Facilier.
I thought for sure, like when they said we were getting like the Princess and the Frog, and I thought like just climbing that final lift hill, and we just get all like the colors and the voodoo, and you get that bump 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 bump. Are you ready? And then have it transition to, as you go further up, then it's you're encaptivated by Dr. Facilier, and then Mama Odie kind of steps in and saves you, and that's what the climactic drop would be.
And it's dig a little deeper.
Yes,
because or dive a little deeper.
There you go.
I think actually, George, you and me were thinking very alike on this. I actually did a Waltoneering episode back in 2020 on this whole thing. I actually said back in 2020, I was like, guys, I did a video after the Princess and the Frog news came out in June. I was like, these are the other attractions which they're going to do, which are going to be marked as part of the diversity initiative. That they, it was like they had a committee that was like looking over things, working out what needs to change, what needs to be updated to make it more diverse for modern times. And I said, Country Bears isn't long for this world. Like, it just isn't in its current form. And I said, I don't doubt it will go away, but they'll update the songs and the show itself. And lo and behold, we've had that. I'm surprised. I don't want this to go away, but I know they've made changes to Phantom Manor in Disneyland Paris with the stretching room scene. I don't believe that there's a hanging. I haven't been on it since they made those changes. So obviously the hanging scene up at the top of the stretching room, that's something which I don't know if that would ever be something they'd need to change. Hall of Presidents is another bit of a contentious issue. I don't think that's long for as well. American Adventure, scene updates to American Adventure and Carousel of Progress. These are just attractions where there's little elements in there where you can see Disney possibly making a change. I really hope that Carousel of Progress gets an update soon. I love Carousel of Progress, but it could be so much better if they just updated it. It's years. I know Rob Plays, if you remember him, Midway to Main Street. Yes. He did a whole video years ago talking about which decades he thinks it should be. It should be like 1940s, 1960s with the moon landing, 1980s with like the dawn of the personal computer, and then go like further into the future. Like you could, predict more into the future. So that would be my guess. But next year Carousel of Progress is 60 years old.
Wow.
That's it's a long time for that attraction to be around, and I would like them to announce something to update it truly, not to replace it, but to update it.
And kind of going back to the original topic, but tying it all in with the updates and everything. I wanted to ask you, Jack, they're not even calling it the Expo anymore. Now they're just calling it the D23 fan event that's going to take place in Anaheim. next August. And they're kind of changing some things up where now they're going to hold the smaller panels in the Anaheim Convention Center, but the bigger presentations, such as Disney Animation, the live action, and the parks presentation, is going to be over at the Honda Center, which can hold up to, I believe it's like 25,000 people. And I mean, I don't know how they're going to end up doing that with
not
the commute
a
and
chance
everything.
of filling that thing.
That's
Not a chance.
So, but if just to say hypothetically, if they're going to move like all that over there just to give us more what ifs, I mean, do you see that happening where it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to give you more what ifs, but we're going to do it over at the Honda Center. We're going to do it all like hyped up, or do you actually think that we're going to get some legit
for tomorrow's sake, for tomorrow's sake, not to be pelted with tomatoes on stage and vegetables? I really hope he comes with a lot more than what ifs, because I don't think that would be a very happy fan reaction that he'd get with more. I think there would be a collective groan and crickets if there was more of that. Go on, Chris. Sorry.
No, I was just say completely agree. I think this is the third, like this would be the third time that he would have done the what if maybe stuff, and I think that fans their patience it's wearing thin, and he does it one more time.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Go ahead though. I'm sorry, brother.
He needs to come with some solid, we're doing things and this is moving forward. Not blue sky final artwork.
Right.
This is what we're building. But this is the problem. They've kind of destroyed the trust. The trust isn't there anymore amongst the fans. Even the fans, which like the ones on Diz Twitter, for all the good and bad on Diz Twitter, like they are fans at the end of the day. And they stay abreast of like the news and they know what's happening. But when it comes to these people, the fans on Diz Twitter, they don't believe a word they say now. I do a video on $60 billion investment into the parks, and the reaction is see it when I believe it when I see it. Like it's very much like I wouldn't call it apathy, but it's getting there. And this is a major issue for Disney. The fact that they've now lost the trust of their most dedicated fan base, it should be alarm bells should be ringing. I mean, I come from like a branding background and advertising business and stuff, and their audience and the trust that they have from the audience is the most important thing that they've got, the most valuable asset they've got.
Right.
A lot of people say it's creativity, but in many ways, when it comes to the parks, at least, it's not just animation, obviously, and movie making, it's creativity, but it's the trust of the consumer. And when it comes to the parks guests, they've gone out their way to like betray that trust many times over now, whether it be price hikes, whether it be Genie Plus, whether it be annual pass issues out in Disneyland, also the whole lot, the park reservation system, the way that the hotel system is set up with the booking in advance and the dining package and stuff like that. They've just gone out their way to make everything so complicated and troublesome to the consumer, the guest. And then at the end of it, they don't even say, hey, there's something exciting around the corner. They don't even dangle a carrot. Like it's crazy at the moment. To be honest, the fact that there's no news is kind of newsworthy in itself, but like, it's crickets. It's almost as bad as like mid 2000s.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and you're absolutely right, Jack. I've talked about that on the channel. They've broken the trust with fans, much like I think Star Wars has kind of done the same thing. Where it's like I see the same thing, right? Like a new Star Wars movie will be announced, and fans are like, oh, "Okay, I'll believe it when I see it." That whole thing, and now that's bleeding into the park stuff.
It's because Star Wars, they announced the movies like the Taika Waititi movie and stuff like that, and what was the other one?
Kevin Feige's movie.
Okay, or loads of them. They announced lots of different movies they've done or they've announced, and they've cancelled them. And the same thing with Disney parks. What they should have done at Destination D this past year or D23 Expo in September 2022, they should have come on stage and they should have said, "Guys, we're bringing back the Mary Poppins attraction." That now, sure. It's a teacups. It's a flat ride. It's a very simple ride. But what that would have done, number one, wouldn't have cost them too much. Would have cost them the budget for that attraction was anywhere between 70 to 100. I know that sounds crazy for a teacups, but it was a very elaborate facade, and they were going to build out. the budgets and Imagineering is something completely different. There's a whole different issue going on with budgets and Imagineering. They kind of got really out of control under Bob Weiss as Imagineering president. I don't know what they're doing to try and sort it out, because Universal are building, Velocicoaster for like 150 mil. Like, I know it's only a roller coaster, but it is well themed, and they're getting things built for a lot less money. Whereas Disney's budgets are really out of control at the moment. But if they announced Mary Poppins was coming back, that wouldn't have cost them the earth, but also it would have restored some trust that, hey, these things that we said were cancelled, they might be coming back. Spaceship Earth, you don't have to announce it, but then people would start to get a little bit more interested. What had they cancelled in the past or indefinitely postponed in Disney speak to then bring back? And I think you'd have started to rebuild that trust, but they haven't done any of that. They actually went in the other direction. They announced Moana coming to Animal Kingdom, and then this year they decided to rip up those plans and do something completely different. Like, we don't know where they are. They're here, there, and everywhere. We don't know where their minds are at. And if they can't decide where their minds are at, why should people get, excited if we don't even know if this is the final product that we're going to end up getting?
And were they kind of...
go ahead. Go ahead, George.
No, I was just going to say, and where they really lost me this year with the Destination D, because I mean, everyone was expecting to hear something of Zootopia tying to Animal Kingdom, and they brought it up, and they say, yeah, we're getting this 3D or 4D show going into the Tree of Life, and that's where it completely lost me in translation.
And George, and they dropped the ball on that with the PR, because what they did with that was just days before they dropped all this crazy video from Shanghai and their version of Zootopia with this elaborate land, like Disney Sea style quality. And then 2 days after that, we're like, yeah, we're bringing Zootopia to Animal Kingdom. It's a 4D experience in the tree. It's like, why would you do that? You set yourself up for that failure when you do that. Maybe you should wait if you're going to do the 4D tree thing. Maybe wait on the Shanghai stuff until after the 4D tree thing.
Well, and here's the thing. And honestly, and Disney is all about immersive experiences. They're all about the creativity of placing people in these immersive worlds where it actually makes sense. I get it. It's tough to be a bug. It opened with the park. It's based off of A Bug's Life. It has its, issues, technically and everything. It's a very odd day, but I still enjoy the show.
I love the show. I love that show.
I personally love it. I mean, I'm probably in the minority here, but I mean, A Bug's Life is like one of these.
The theme at the end. I could sing it right now. Without us you wouldn't have a planet. It's a good song. It really is a good message as well.
And as I said, I love the Hopper animatronic of how they brought him into the show. I mean, it's to me, that's classic Disney.
I wonder how much for Kevin Spacey news, though, is they know that they need to take, because obviously,
that's true.
The whole Kevin Spacey trial and all the other stuff that went on and the allegations, and then I think he ended up getting cleared of in one trial or whatever. But like, it's curious that they haven't made a move on this earlier. You know what I mean? Like, why now? Like, it's flown under the radar for long enough. Aerosmith is another one with Rock and Roller Coaster. The allegations there with Steven Tyler, like,
very serious.
That can't be long for the world. Rock and Roller Coaster in its current iteration with Aerosmith.
Absolutely,
it'd be a simple thing to just be like, hey guys, we're going to do multiple bands. It's going to be, it's going to be a bit like Ride Rocket at Universal Studios, but I don't know what they're doing with that even.
And then the whole thing with the D23 thing is like, at D23 they did this whole Big Thunder, Beyond Big Thunder, right? They really hyped that, and everyone got excited about the Villains Land, all this stuff they were talking about. And then they switched it up at Destination D. They're like, okay, forget about that. Now we're going to do like Encanto in Animal Kingdom. And it's like, so we're getting like all this maybe what if stuff. And like, it's not even like, there's no follow-up to it. It's like we get one maybe what if over at D23, and then they change everything and they give us a completely different thing at Destination D. So it's like there's no progress. It's just like they're just throwing stuff off the wall to see what sticks. Go ahead, George. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. And honestly, with the people in the fan community, they're already saying, okay, I wonder what kind of rendition we're getting with Indiana Jones coming to Animal Kingdom and Encanto and what have you. And I'm thinking, everyone, I mean, did you not listen to Tomorrow on stage? This is still a what if. Nothing has been greenlit. So at the D23 Expo, what is it going to be? Something complete, another two IPs that's going into Animal Kingdom? I mean,
it makes my job and your job, Chris, as to do videos on this stuff hard, because when it comes to like titling this stuff, I don't like to be misleading my titles on YouTube. But like, what do I say? It's not confirmed, so I said announce. I said new lands announced for Animal Kingdom, because they announced them, but then they announced for Blue Sky. Like, it becomes very difficult, and I guess this gets into the whole what's happened to the Disney YouTube community and the Diz Twitter and just the community in general. And I think it's this push-pull, like Disney not giving anyone anything to go off creates this negativity, and the negativity creates more. And it's just kind of like, it's a never-ending cycle, and it's kind of spiraling downwards, and they can't pull themselves out of this tailspin at the moment. And the quickest way to pull themselves out of this tailspin is to just announce something and follow through, because that's all the fans want at this point. Yes, I know we've had a record-breaking, amount of investment in Walt Disney World and Disneyland, and we have seen it, over the last 10 years, a huge amount of investment. But when, much like having, anything, when you start feeding the beast and it starts getting used to the appetite of eating that much, you've got to keep feeding the beast. And they're not doing that when it comes to the fan community. You can't all of a sudden make the fan community fast and diet when they were used to eating, take the analogy too far, but they were used to receiving this amount of news, and then you're giving them nothing. Like, it's even more deafening, the silence, because of what it's being compared to in context. The whole lukewarm reaction that they're getting at the moment, it's of their own making. It's of their own making. They could turn it around very quickly if they wanted to, but they've got to put the right IPs in the right parks, in my opinion. And in Kanto, I can see the way it could work with Antonio, and if they wanted to, make it about Antonio and the animals, and he comes in and saves the day, but make it about a magical family, that makes sense. Indiana Jones making it something about some sort of lost artifact to do with a unicorn or something like that, or a dragon egg, or something silly, but like, not, no more silly than Crystal Skull aliens, happened in 2008. So I could see the way they would do it, but they're not picking the right IP, in my opinion, in the right parks. I don't think Guardians was a good choice in Epcot. I know the way they've worked it in there with Zandari and Pavilion and all that sort of stuff, but like, I would have put that in Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
And I'd have put Tron in Epcot. That's what I would have done if that was my choice. I would have put Tron Light Cycle Run in Epcot, because it's the park with the iconic, architecture that makes statements. You got Spaceship Earth, you've got the Imagination Pavilion, you've got the land and the seas, and they're all architectural statements. And they went and put this great big stupid green box there instead of putting a Tron-like canopy that would have been so dynamic within Epcot, and it wouldn't have. Yes, it would have been a bit of an eyesore, but like, you would have been drawn to it instead.
Right. And I feel like, Jack, you hit the nail on the head. I feel like what they're doing with the decision making, and we'll get into this too with even on the West Coast with Pandora or Avatar going into DCA.
We've got to talk about that.
Well, we've got to talk about that. But it's like, I feel like everything is focus grouped and sort of like Excel spreadsheeted, basically, where it's like,
I don't know who they've got in these focus groups, but whoever it is, they need a different focus group, because it's completely the wrong stuff in the wrong parks, and I don't know where they're getting this information from.
And it's like, okay, we need a big IP. Okay, DCA needs a new thing. Okay, so we'll get Avatar. That's a big IP, and DCA is the park we need to put it. It's like there's no logical though. Like, it's like one hand isn't talking to the other. It's very frustrating. Go ahead, George.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Jack, you had mentioned like it's difficult to even know like how to were things of like videos that, you know, that we put out and what have you. And we had just mentioned like with Avatar going to DCA, we released a video thinking, okay, Disney is actually officially putting this in DCA. Next day, oh no, a Disneyland official says nope, nothing was ever confirmed. So then we had to come up with another video to reconfirm any of our findings were not actually.
That's the trouble there, George. Is that like it's so not only are you undermining because you, me, everyone, we're giving Disney free publicity. Okay, that's what we are. We're if there's like a cog, you know, if there's like a wheel, we're the spoke that comes off a free promotion for Disney. And if they're not giving us accurate information and they're making us look like the fools, then we're losing our trust with our fan base and our audience. And if we lose trust with our audience, guess what? We're no longer as valuable to Disney to give them free promotion. And so from every single angle, it's silly to just not have something announced, because you're destroying the trust of the community. You're losing their interest. You're destroying the credibility of the people who cover your stuff for free. You know, free promotion, that's what they get from us. Yes, okay, we get some kickback in ad revenue from YouTube, but none of us, at least I'm not, and I believe that you're not as well,
correct,
on any sort of media list. I've never been to a media event. I've only ever been in, you know, Big Fat Panda.
Yes.
We were hanging out one day in Magic Kingdom in 2019, and he went along and he was told, because he's on the media list, he was told there's going to be a parade and I just stood there and I just saw the media gaggle, you know, the gaggle of media there. And I was like, yeah, is this what it's like? Is it? And then I said, John, do you have to like send that video to them? And he said, yeah, they have to approve it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't want any part of this, thanks. Because they're so that it's such a crazy kind of setup they've got with their influencers. And, you know, I say influencers now because they're TikTok influencers. These influencers on the media list don't even know what they're talking about now. So they won't invite the people who actually do know something because they're worried about getting negative, authentic feedback. So they invite people who are not knowledgeable of a product, which is spreading misinformation about the new thing that's coming out, because the information is not accurate, because the people don't really know the product itself. So it's just so bizarre. I so wish I could be in control of Disney marketing. That's kind of one area which I have such like a passion for, because all of this at the end of the day, the announcements, the D23 Expo, everything, it's all marketing, it's all branding. And Disney's biggest problem at the moment, from my perspective, is they don't have a clue in terms of branding. They've completely wasted Disney 100. 100 years of Disney should be a massive thing. Like, I know they granted some Make-A-Wish stuff, but they should have done like 100 wishes. You know, they should have done a campaign, not just of Make-A-Wish 100 wishes, definitely that, but also a 100 wish giveaway. Like, give away 100 free holidays to Walt Disney World as part of, or Disneyland, whichever one's closest, as part of Disney 100. Make it a marketing campaign. They
were really good at that, because I remember that they used to do the Year of a Million Dreams campaign. Yeah. That was like a blockbuster in that time.
Even going back to the 80s with Disneyland, and they gave away cars and stuff. You know what I mean? They have that kind of thing outside the front of the park. You know, they do this kind of stuff before, but like Disney 100, you know, Warner Brothers has had 100, Columbia's having it next year, but Disney should have. Yes, I can forgive them a little bit because the whole plans got thrown off with Chapek being fired and Iger coming back. They had no plans to like follow through, like nothing, and that to me is beyond like unforgivable to from a marketing perspective, to waste that opportunity that they had to speak to a global audience and be like, we have been around for 100 years. We'll be around for another 100 years. We are a legacy brand. We have been here, multi-generational. They could have so reaffirmed all of that support, but it missed opportunity.
No, 100%, Jack, 100%. I mean, and it's like, it's crazy too, right? Because at the D23 Expo, that Villains Land, that Beyond Big Thunder Villains Land got a crazy response. We never heard anything about it again.
I was there. The auditorium went absolutely nuts. I mean, it was like 5 straight minutes that they literally had to wait for everyone to calm down.
George,
and then after that, it was like, but remember, this is a what if.
Yeah. Okay. Let's splash cold water. You're too excited. It's like I've been in the community for a really long time. Like AOL dial-up days, right? And I remember back then in the Disneyland news groups and things on AOL, people talking about a villain's land, like for Anaheim or Florida and stuff like that. People really want that. They really, really want that. It's like, it's not that complicated, Disney. It really isn't that complicated.
I drew a piece of concept art for it, and I can't even draw.
There you go.
I would love to see a villain's land come, or villain's kingdom or whatever, to come to Magic Kingdom. But when you actually start thinking about the practicality of it, I'm like, okay, right. If you actually list off the villains that could be in it, you start to work out like, what are we actually going to do here? Because you got Gaston, Jafar, Scar, Ursula, Maleficent. I think the one that's the most potential is Chernobog.
Oh yeah,
Chernobog's Mountain. Mm-hmm. I think making a Chernobog's Mountain and make that kind of like a very, like a very thrilling kind of scary roller coaster. Right. That has potential. But because a lot of them are comedy villains, Cruella and Captain Hook and all the, like when you actually start looking at what they could do, there's not much scare factor. I know Epic Universe, and I know you wanted to come to Epic Universe as well.
Yeah, let's talk about
my thoughts on this as well, if you want me to know.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Absolutely, 100%. I
haven't really spoken about Epic Universe that much on my channel. And big surprise, I'm called DSNY Newscast. It's in the name there. But when it comes to Universal, I haven't pivoted towards covering Universal. I know I've got the Universal Newscast channel that my brother used to do. But I was an annual pass holder at Universal.
Okay.
I've only let lapse recently because we've had our little baby boy, and there's not really anything we can do over there at Universal. All of them. The only thing we could do is probably the spinner ride and Seuss Landing, the one fish, two fish. But everything else, we can't really go on with him. So no point paying for another year. So that's the reason why we let our passes lapse. But when it comes to Universal, I'm a fan of Universal. I don't talk about it on the channel, but I've been there many, many times, and I am a fan of Universal. But I don't want to cover it on the channel because Epic Universe for me just isn't doing it. I wasn't a Nintendo kid growing up. I know that's sounds crazy to a lot of people. I just wasn't a video game kind of kid. I played, if you must know, like I played N64, but like GoldenEye and like the wrestling games like WrestleMania and stuff like that. I played those kind of stuff, but I was actually more of a Sega kid than a Super Mario Brothers kid.
Nice.
I like Sonic and stuff like that. But when it comes to Super Nintendo World,
Nintendo stock just dropped.
I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be okay. But Super Nintendo World, I don't get why people are that like fascinated with Super Nintendo World, because it's been open in Tokyo for how many years now? Like even at least 2 years already. It opened in Hollywood. What, this year was it? This year it opened in Hollywood. Donkey Kong Coaster's opening in Osaka next year. Not Tokyo, in Osaka in Japan next year, Donkey Kong Coaster. And I think are they building that in Hollywood?
That's the rumor. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely by the time Epic Universe opens, we'll have seen everything part of Super Nintendo World. So not really that interested in that. It's not going to be different. It's a Galaxy's Edge clone. Okay. So, and you know how people felt about that in Walt Disney World. It just wasn't the same response. How to Train Your Dragon. I'm way too old for that. I'm 32 years old, so I wasn't a How to Train Your Dragon fan. And
not to interrupt you, and I'll let you continue, Jack, but like I completely agree with you. Like this park has an IP problem, absolutely.
Yeah. And this is what I'm getting to, which is you got Harry Potter, which they've done it 2 times already, and then doing it a third time. And then the only one which I'm really, really interested in is the Universal's Classic Monsters. That's a great land. That I can't wait to go. And I will go to Epic Universe. I can't wait to experience it. But imagine this for a second. Imagine if Disney stood on stage and they were like, we're building a new park at Walt Disney World, and it's going to be Frozen, Tangled, Zootopia and Princess and the Frog. Enjoy. Like, what response do you think they'd get? People would be going, oh, there's that IP land. Why are you doing IP land? There's a double standard within the theme park community at the moment. Now, Epic Universe is going to be quality. We can all see that from the construction updates that BioReconstruct does. It's going to be some fantastic theming. And I no doubt Epic Universe will deliver. But there is a definite double standard when it comes to Universal versus Disney at the moment, which I don't think anyone's really talking about that much.
No.
And Universal does the same thing that Disney does, and they get a pass. Now, that's not Universal's fault. That's the community's fault, not holding them both equal. In my opinion, in my mind, Universal and Disney are level pegging now. Like they are level in terms of their equality. So why don't we hold them to the same standards when they both do the same thing?
Thank you, Jack. And I absolutely agree with you 1000%. And here's the thing I hear a lot in the community, right? I hear a lot about, okay, Universal is on Disney's level, right? We hear this a lot on Twitter.
It really is on Disney's level.
And it really is
fantastic.
Absolutely. Like Wizarding World, all this stuff. But then when you bring up something like the new coaster they're bringing up that they're building over there at Epic Universe, Starfall Racers, which is really just a steel coaster over some grass. And people fall back on, well, it's Universal. We shouldn't hold them to a high standard. Yeah. I'm like, well, wait a minute. We've seen what Universal can do. They can do better. So why are we not calling them out for this stuff and forcing them to do better? You're giving them a pass on something when you know they can do better than this, It drives me nuts.
I agree. And it's that kind of, it's not Universal. In no way is it Universal's fault. Like Universal's just doing what they're doing, and Disney's just doing what they're doing. But the fan community is so it's so one-sided now. It's become so warped, and I don't know how we hit the reset button, how we recalibrate the fan community, because okay, here's another example. I think I actually saw you actually tweet about it, Chris, which was the new park in Fresno, Texas. It's being designed by, drumroll please,
Gensler, right?
Gensler. Yeah. And like if Disney announced they're building a brand new park in a different state and it was built by Gensler, come on, the amount of thumbnails there would be. Like, no one's talking about it. No one's talking about that. Look, I welcome Universal expanding their footprint across America. I'm sure it'll be a great park for what it's meant to be, which is it's aimed at a much younger audience. Right. But it's being designed by Gensler, after all. A Gensler executive now runs the top of Universal Creative. Same thing at Imagineering, and there's this whole Genslerification happening at the hotels at Disney. Have you covered the Stella Nova?
We did.
Yeah.
We thought it was pretty underwhelming. I mean, because all we're hearing is that this thing is going to change the game, right? This thing is this whole Epic Universe.
It's going to be great, but it's not going to change the game. It's going to be a fantastic, moderate to value hotel. I think it is, and it looks nice enough. But like, this is just my own personal preference. Have you seen the video of somebody posted of their apartments nearby the thing where it's like the sun hits it and it's directly in the eye?
Yes.
Like that's a design oversight personally. But I've said this a couple of times on Twitter, but I think it looks like, one of those sequin pillows where like you stroke it one way and the other way and like it kind of changes its design. Yes. Like it reveals a name or it reveals a face or something. It looks like that to me. And people are like, oh, it looks amazing. I call it the Tetris Hotel. Like
totally.
It looks like Tetris.
Or Candy Crush or something, right?
Or Candy Crush, yeah. I applaud Universal for doing something new and refreshing, but I don't think the community in general has that kind of. Then there's no ability at the moment to be able to go, yeah, that's good and refreshing, but also let's put it in context. Right. There's no context within what Universal's doing, and I think that's partly Disney to blame because they're not announcing anything. So because Disney don't have anything to compare against Epic Universe, everyone's going to say Epic Universe is fantastic, and everything at Disney's rubbish.
And Disney even knows that because they know more so Epic Universe is going to do well, but it's not going to bury them in the sand. So they're thinking in their minds, why invest in anything of our money when we know that people are still going to come through our gates even
Yeah.
after Epic Universe
Well,
opens.
Which is lazy. It's very lazy of Disney to do that.
It is. It's
And-
very lazy.
And I just retweeted something out where someone posted the Disney World hotels, and they said something of like the joke of like, okay, it's like IKEA at its finest or what have you. But I thought, okay, this is my perfect opportunity. So I got every single Universal
George,
hotel.
if you get canceled, I can't save you, brother. So be careful, man.
So I took every single Universal hotel, and I said, as much as I do agree with you, a lot of the updated Disney hotel rooms, they're a bit lackluster. I kind of wish that Disney would kind of stick with the overall theme of what the hotel was about, sort of like with the All-Star resorts. It's like all the rooms are now just looking like the same thing rather than
Century and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And I said, I completely agree with you as far as the Disney resort hotels, but let's not, and I kind of made it as a joke where it's like, let's not leave Universal out of the party. Let's not leave them out of it. Because I posted like the Cabana Bay and everything, Aventura. They all kind of have that
You're
same...
only doing what any theme park fan should do, which is, apples to oranges. We should compare. In the tech community, they compare Android to Apple. And Android to iPhone. They compare that in the tech community. And yes, they've slowly become closer and closer together in terms of the thing. And so have Disney and Universal. Universal used to be a notch lower than Disney. And now they are of the same quality.
Right.
And, Disney raised their ticket prices. Everyone loses their mind. Universal does it 2 weeks later. Where's the
Crickets.
articles? And I think... I don't wish this on Universal because Universal, they're having an easier time of it right now and they probably want this to continue. But like at a certain point when Epic Universe opens, they will be a 3-park, resort with I don't call Volcano Bay a theme park. I know it's a themed water park. I call it a themed water park. So they've got 4 parks basically, but They can compete. They are then truly on the same level as Disney,
right?
And people just don't want to admit they are, and it's crazy to me because the only way to get better products at both of them is to compare them equally.
And it's the same thing even with the maintenance issues. We've called it out how many times. When something shows up at Disney, it's like, hey, Disney, you really need to take care of this. It needs to be fixed or what have you, and lo and behold, Disney does do it, but it's like if Universal has some issues, it's just because they're Universal. It's like you're justifying the fact that Universal can be lazy at not getting nothing done because they are titled Universal.
Well, and this is the thing that frustrates me is people talk about Universal like it's like Aunt May's cookie factory on Ventura Boulevard, like this mom and pop thing. This is Comcast. I mean, they have all the money that Disney has.
I think, and coming back to the whole, Comcast does things, and like any business does, and so does Disney. But the Disney name is so much. I think there's a branding perspective there. Because Comcast is this entity, and then you've got NBC Universal, then you've got Universal Orlando or Universal Resorts, and then you've got all these other things that make up Comcast. Xfinity, all these other things that kind of add up this massive umbrella organization. Right. Disney being at right. I think personally, Disney Plus was one of the stupidest brand names that you could possibly have done, because and I think they should change the brand name. If I'm being totally honest with you, I would call it Plus. I would just drop the Disney, because when you add Hulu to the equation, which they're about to do, you could then run the whole marketing campaign around it's Disney Plus Pixar plus Star Wars plus Marvel plus Hulu plus Fox, and it's the plus service. And you could even go back and pull in a quote of Walt Disney going, and we like to plus it. And because Walt used to always say, you go ahead and plus it. They could make it a whole thing. They could make a whole campaign about add it to your list, plus it. You could do so much with a marketing campaign around Plus. Right. I know HBO dropped it down to Max, so you got Max plus Netflix. Disney is the main competitor to Netflix in the US. Right. It just is. And so I think Plus would make it a bit more of a broader church for them to be able to pull in more content and more viewers.
No, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, one thing I want to run by you, Jack, and I've been talking about this a lot in a lot of videos, and a lot of a lot of fans don't talk about it, but Epic Universe. When Animal Kingdom opened in at Walt Disney World, it cannibalized their other parks a little bit. I've been saying for a long time this is a concern for Epic Universe. Or not Epic Universe, but for Universal in general, where they open the new shiny thing, Epic Universe, and maybe the studio park takes a hit because, families are like, okay, we'll go to the new thing.
I think Islands of Adventure will take more of a hit.
Or, okay, Islands of Adventure. But do you see that happening, though? Like a cannibalization a little bit?
I could definitely see that happening. But here's where Universal is different to Disney. Universal is spending money right now. And for the longest time, Disney was the one spending a lot of money building Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge and God knows what else they're building, Tron and Guardians and Star Wars Hotel and, so many other things. And, Universal had the Jimmy Fallon ride, and then a couple of years later, they had Hagrid's. And, it wasn't the level of investment that, Disney had going. But here's the difference between Universal and Disney. It's like Universal's making a real play for the theme park market right now. Obviously we're talking about the Fresno thing, we talked about Vegas and the what was it called? The Area 51, or I can't remember what it's called. The thing they've got going over there.
The Halloween Horror Night thing, right?
Halloween Horror Night thing. Yeah, I think it's the Area 51 complex or something. I don't know. It's a bit like that. And then Legend of Zelda potentially coming to Islands of Adventure will be a pulling factor. But I could see them getting that ready to go by 2020, knowing Universal's speed of things, 2026, 2027. And they'll have that ready. And they'll have the DreamWorks thing next year at Universal Studios. They'll have new things to offer. Whether it's of a standard of quality which you think is Disney standard or you used to up to the Universal standard of things is personal preference and personal opinion. But at least they're having new things to offer. And I think they'll offset that. But I do think, like you say, it's like the Animal Kingdom thing. It's definitely going to take a bit of a dent out of Universal and also Islands of Adventure. It just will. It just has to. But that's where Universal will probably offer a ticket package similar to what Disney will do at the same time as Epic Universe opens. And they'll bundle it in and people will do half a day in each one. And they'll take the Hogwarts Express over between the two parks and that'll be it. But Epic Universe is going to have it's not going to have the problem which Animal Kingdom had when it first opened, which was, it's nice, but there's not a lot to do. Epic Universe is going to have quite a lot of things to do. It's going to have at least 10 rides to begin with. If not, maybe 11, maybe 11 or 12. But it's got a lot going for it. It's got nighttime as well, a nighttime aspect to it, which Animal Kingdom didn't have either. So I think people are even more kind of like, oh, we come to Animal Kingdom and there's not much to do, and also there's no nighttime aspect to it, whereas Epic Universe won't have that issue. So I think the guest reaction to Epic Universe will be very strong, but I can see a lot of people spending 2 days there and halving their time at the other two parks. But as long as they offer a ticket package, I don't think it will hurt Universal all too much immediately. Maybe in the long run.
Do you feel, as far as with the crowd levels at the Disney parks, that they're saying, a lot of people are saying,
I don't know where the crowd levels are high. I don't get what people
I don't get it either. That's what I don't understand, where they're saying, oh, it's it's dead. It's
people. So there's this sorry, George, but there's I saw your video with Slimer was on the
yes.
And about the crowd levels, and I go around Disney parks often and Walt Disney World, and the crowd level is high at the moment. And to be honest, how expensive it is, I'm surprised, but they are there. And also, the other thing is that they're not just high in terms of the crowd level being high, but it's been sustained for a few years. And I said back in 2020, when the pandemic and stuff like that, it's like these price gouging and stuff like that, it won't affect them immediately. It will affect them in around 4 years' time. And we're still around a year away from that. And what are Disney doing at the beginning of January of 2024? They are going to be bringing back the dining plan, and they're doing other things. They can see that softening in demand at the 4-year mark. Like I said, 3 or 4 years, that's when a lot of people take their vacations. They save up, do it once every 2 to 3 years, they go to Walt Disney World. At least international tourists they do. I know that, and people who don't live as close by in driving distance of Orlando probably do as well. So, Genie Plus and the change of experience in post-pandemic, it's left this ugly taste in a lot of people's mouths, and they are now having to incentivize people with ticket packages to try and get them back. And I think they're going to get very aggressive with their ticket pricing strategy to try and keep these parks at capacity and full. But I don't know where this myth comes from about. There's this narrative at the moment being pushed online. Disney's done. Disney's dead. Disney's doomed. It's going away. It'll be dead within a year. There's this, I don't get what their end game is, because a year is going to eventually come and Disney's not going to be dead.
Right.
Disney's not going to be gone and bankrupt. Disney's got $14.5 billion in free cash flow at the moment. They can more than buy Hulu with that money. People in my comments sometimes I get people, Disney's going to have to pay $30 billion for Hulu. I'm
come
Disney
on.
owns 2/3 of Hulu.
Well, and
they're not paying themselves.
And the crazy thing about that, Jack, and we talked about the Hulu stuff, is like on CNBC, which is a Comcast-owned network. Yeah. All day long, you hear on CNBC how worthless Disney's streaming services are. And then Brian Roberts gets on there and it's like, yeah, we want all this money for Hulu. Wait a minute, Brian. I thought this thing was worthless. What do you mean? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
But I will also say that ABC does the same thing. I mean, there's a similar kind of narrative there with ABC pushing, but they don't. But the difference is ABC don't push down Comcast. They just talk up Disney. You know what I mean?
Right.
They sprinkle that pixie dust over the Disney product. So, Comcast and Disney are companies that are clearly going to do what they're going to do. They're corporations. But when it comes to the it's not even fan community, it's the influencer community. There's this kind of drive towards let's try and take Disney down.
Right.
And it's just they've got so much money. I see people being like, oh, they're $40 billion in the hole. Okay. Have you looked at Comcast and Warner Brothers debt to equity ratio? No, have you?
No.
Literally, I did it in a video back in August, and I showed the debt to equity ratios of Disney, Universal, Disney, Comcast, Netflix, and Warner Brothers. I'm like, Disney's actually got the healthiest debt to equity ratio of the lot. And, that says something, but yet people don't look into the others nearly as much. Now, that I reckon is because Disney's always been the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And being the 800-pound gorilla in the room, everyone's coming for you. But also, I think it's the brand name, the fact that it's the Walt Disney face and brand name. It feels more relatable and, you can actually relate to like that. So... yeah, go ahead. Sorry, you're going to say something.
No, and you're spot on. But I also would add one more thing. This might be a little controversial, but I think also the focus on Disney is there's the culture war, and people are so in this culture war. And I think a lot of these influencers feel that Disney is ground zero for the culture war. So we're going to focus on the Mouse House because they're the wokest in the room.
This is their biggest problem at the moment. Disney is Chapek is a lot of people like to say that Iger was behind it all, and Iger, Chapek was the fall guy for Iger. Iger has his faults. I can list them right now. I'll list his 3 or 4 faults right now. Okay. Number one, it was paying $71 billion for 21st Century Fox. I'm sorry about that. I could do that. Yeah. Well, okay. Anyway, just going to say. So Iger's first one is paying $71 billion for Fox. Stupidly overpriced. It was worth, I struggle to think it was worth $52 billion. Right. But he was played then very cleverly by Comcast and Brian Roberts. And he was really played for that. And raising it $20 billion above what he originally, that's just so stupid. It's like if you were going to go buy a house and you end up buying the house for 20K more than what, it's just so silly. It's just so stupid of him there to hold on and try and get it. What he should have done is he should have gone, okay, take it, and let Comcast take on Fox for $66 billion. Like he should have done that, or $65 billion or something. And I would have taken the money that they were going to spend on Fox and put it into the content. I would have just done that or bought the Hulu aspect out of it. You know, maybe spent 20 billion on Hulu and just pulled that out. Anyway. So Fox was Iger's number one issue. Iger's fascination with China and trying to build Shanghai Disneyland was his number two issue. Desperately trying to get Disney into China with Shanghai Disney. I think it was a fool's errand in many ways. Yes, Shanghai is successful, but I think at the end of the day, it was more problematic for the Disney company to be associated with, which, you know, Shanghai Disney is partially owned by the Chinese government, and, you know, all the negative press that comes with that. I think it wasn't the smartest move because when you're the CEO of Disney, you're kind of like a statesman. You're like a president of a small country in ways. And I don't think it was the smartest move from Iger's standpoint to be so obsessed with trying to get Disney into China. And then the other one is the IP invasion in the parks. That started under Iger with Nemo in Disneyland and continued with Cars and everything else afterwards. So he really pushed the IP into the parks. And then he also failed. His biggest failure was Chapek, because he failed to pick the correct successor. And that's ego. So they're Iger's issues. But Chapek did so much damage to the Disney brand. So much damage. And everyone likes to say that Chapek's a fall guy for Iger. But Chapek made these decisions which just ripped apart Disney's image in Hollywood, in the guests' eyes, in the cast members' eyes. He just basically tore the Disney brand image to shreds in the short 2 years. I think Chapek's tenure at Disney will be studied at business school as a way of saying, hey, look, picking the wrong CEO can do to your company. Because it really is a textbook example of, it's like John Scully at Apple, but that was not nearly as bad as what, you know, Chapek almost did to Disney. But yeah, you were mentioning about the culture wars,
right?
That was all because Chapek's mismanaging of corporate relations and communications. He first of all said, "I'm not going to talk about the Don't Say Gay bill." Upset his cast members. Then he went and said, you know what, I'm actually gonna say something about it. He went in the other direction, but then he didn't just go, I'm gonna say something about it. He went a bit further than what I think Iger would have said, which is, he said, I'm going to work to, you know, Disney's going to work to repeal the legislation. I think Iger would have been, Iger was savvy and still is savvy enough to know how far to take it. And he would have said, we're going to support our cast members. We do not support the legislation, and we will support our cast members in any effects that happen. You know, like that. He would have said that. He wouldn't have said, we're going to now become a political action committee and work to repeal. And I don't think that was really what Chapek was trying to do, trying to get too political. He just used a poor choice of words, and he didn't have a Xenia Muka to you know, carefully word the statement for him, and he just put something out there, and it was that kind of careless kind of, you know, we're going to work to repeal it, just say that, and that was it. And then the Republicans in Florida jumped on that. It was like, oh my god, you're coming after us, and it became this great big culture war from there. But I put all of that at the feet of Chapek and his mismanagement. You know, he very almost destroyed the relationship with Hollywood over Scarlett Johansson. Right. You know, just because he I don't know if you've read the whole thing about how that came to be, but apparently, you know, the statement that came out, and he said that, you know, Scarlett Johansson is trying to profiteer off the pandemic. Right. That statement that came out, it was very harshly worded. It turned out that statement was like drafted and given to Chapek, and he was like, yeah, this is good. And he showed it to Iger, and Iger was like, look, you didn't want my input before. Why should I give you my input now? And yeah, that's a bit childish of Iger. But likewise, Chapek was trying to, you know, run the company, then make the decision. Apparently, when it all went upside down for Chapek, he then turned to Iger and said, "Can you kind of smooth things over with Scarlett Johansson?" And Iger went again, said, "You know, I'm going to put my arms up in the air. No, I'm not going to do anything. This is your mess. You fix it." Personally, I don't think that's a team player, and he's not doing what's best for Disney. But also, that's Chapek's fault. Chapek can't go around making messes and expect Iger to fix them for him. Sure. So And that's just because, and I did actually predict this back in March of 2020 when I did a video in March of 2020 after February when he was made CEO. And I said, the thing about Chapek is he talks a lot more off the cuff than he does than Iger does. Iger's a lot more rehearsed, carefully scripted on what he's going to say. Chapek will just say what comes to mind. And I think that ended up being his undoing as CEO of Disney.
Or basically whatever they have on the teleprompter.
yeah. Yes, but also when he was in earnings calls and stuff like that, he just did not know how to answer things.
Yeah,
no, he just
wasn't. He wasn't a media personality when he was on CNBC or Bloomberg or whatever. You know, he didn't know how to do it the same way that Iger did, and I think that was a complete mismanagement by Iger to choose Chapek. He should have picked Kevin Mayer. He should have picked Kevin Mayer. That was the guy he should have picked.
100%. Well, Kevin Mayer was the guy who was with him in all those acquisitions. The entire Bob Iger legacy was built on the acquisitions. So why wouldn't it made no sense when he chose Chapek? I mean, no sense at all.
I personally think this is, it's not really tinfoil hat stuff, but like obviously Shanghai Disneyland closed down before all the other parks. And I think Iger saw the way the wind was blowing with the beginning of the pandemic, and he was like, I'm about to leave. Do I want my last act as Disney CEO to be furloughing, hundreds of thousands of cast members?
Right.
No. So he kind of took his leave then. And that's the reason why he was willing to stay on in an advisory role, but he thought he was going to be a lot more active in that advisory role. But I think he tried to get out of there because he didn't want to have his last thing. And, Iger's the reason why the furloughed cast members actually, this was also revealed at the time of the whole Chapek being fired thing, but Iger was the reason why the furloughed cast members waited an extra 2 weeks for the unemployment to kick in Florida, and so therefore they had money coming in, because if Chapek had furloughed and got rid of them at that point before the unemployment kicked in with the CARES Act, all those cast members wouldn't have been able to apply. So it was a very mixed bag. Chapek wasn't thinking even of the cast members. So no good words. I've got no good words to say about Chapek, if I'm being totally honest. The only thing I will ever say about him is that he greenlit a lot of projects. And that was good for me. That was good for me personally on my channel because I had a lot to talk about. But
to his credit, I mean, you make a great point, Jack. At least when Chapek went on the D23 stage and he said this is coming, for the most part, it came.
Except for Main Street Theater, except for that.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's switch coast a little bit. I want to get your opinion, Jack, on this Avatar stuff going on over at DCA of all places. So IAPA was recently a few days ago. And there were reports that I guess Imagineer Chris Beatty was saying that this Pandora experience is coming to California Adventure. What are your thoughts on this? Now, they backpedaled since then, and they said, well, we don't really know, that whole thing. But what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on this are, if they can't even decide what IP to put into DAC, into Animal Kingdom,
right, then
no wonder there's a lot of ideas floating around for Avatar. And, when Avatar was announced during the earnings call, where Iger said, Avatar is going to be coming to... Apparently, Ken Potrock didn't even know it was coming to... that caught him off guard, apparently. He didn't even know it was coming to his resort. And he's the president of Disneyland. And so, Imagineering is a very mixed bag at the moment. They don't know...
Maybe nobody actually knew. Maybe even Iger didn't even know at that time. He just kind of said it, and then afterwards it was over. He's like, "Get James Cameron on the phone."
Yeah, right.
Maybe ChatGPT's doing it. I don't know. It's like it's very odd, but it doesn't fit in California Adventure.
Not at all.
I struggle to think. I can work out Pixar Emeryville, California.
Yeah. Even Avengers. Even Avengers Campus, right? You can kind of say, okay, it's like the tech campuses.
It's a stretch. It was a bloody stretch to try and get that in there. From I say that from a very British kind of way, but it was a far stretch to try and get Avengers Campus shoehorned into California Adventure. But I see the reason why they did it, because you got Star Wars on one side, you got Marvel on the other. It makes sense. It balances out the resort with these massive IPs.
Right.
Avatar, I don't know why it's going into California Adventure unless they're going to make there's no tie back to California in the movies. What I would do is I would put it into Tomorrowland. If I'm being totally honest, there needs to be. I would remove the Nemo submarine. I would remove the motorboat lagoon where it used to be, and Autopia. I'd take out those, the two attractions there and the old defunct one, and I would put it in there. The Nemo building goes very far underground. It's a lot of height there that they've got. They could sink a flight of passage size show building pretty low to the ground actually and cover it up. And they could put it in there, and it would give a real boost to Tomorrowland and way out the other side of Disneyland, so it's not so, one-sided towards.
Well, and the brilliance of that idea, Jack, and we've talked about it on the channel too, is that when you put it there, I think Avatar as a franchise is a perfect segue from tomorrow to fantasy. So that whole little mini land would kind of straddle both Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. And it's perfect. It's perfect. It's a perfect IP for that. It's like it's made for that area.
Yeah. And then you have the argument in the Disney community because Iger used the term "quote unquote" experience, and people kind of take that to heart of saying, okay, is this going to be like an indoor walkthrough attraction, or is this actually going to be a land? Is this going to be a ride? And it's like, when you compare it, then you're going to say it's just going to be as creative and immersive as the one in Animal Kingdom.
You got to deliver on that.
And it has to be a land.
Exactly.
Can't be a. I did a video at the very beginning of 2020, this year in 2023 on Avatar. I'm talking about the exhibit they had over in
Singapore, right?
Gardens by the Bay, in Singapore. And I was like, bring this animatronic for parks, do a Star Wars launch bay on this, use the animatronic as a way to pull people in, but then use it as a launch pad to kind of market the next 3 or 4 Avatar movies, however many they've got. That made total sense, whether it be Disney's Hollywood Studios or Animal Kingdom or Disneyland. Do it somewhere and use that. And it was the same company that did the Iron Man suits in the old Interventions in Disneyland. So it made sense, but then when they said experience, I thought, oh, here we go. It's an experience. This is what it's going to be. But now they've said that it's going to be on, and where they said it was going to be on the same level as Animal Kingdom was they got the actors from Avatar 2, didn't they? From Way of Water.
They did. Yeah.
They lined them up. And wasn't it one of the actors or something said it's going to be on the same level as Animal Kingdom?
I believe so.
It wasn't Iger, though. It wasn't like...
Yeah.
Now that I actually think about it, it was
D23. It was mentioned on D23.com that it will be on the same level. But here's my thing: is that we all know that these blog sites, they have interns and stuff like that. Was that carefully worded, or was that just an intern writing something, thinking it? Sure. I mean, if they can make a miscommunication in terms of IAPA with Chris Beatty, such a high-ranking Imagineer, saying one thing and then Disneyland saying we're not ready to announce it yet, then I don't think it's out of the realm possibility that an intern might have written, "Hey, it's going to be on the same. It's just going to be like Animal Kingdom in Animal Kingdom's Pandora." Just going one step further. So the fact that we haven't heard Iger say that it's still being described as an experience, I still don't think it will necessarily be a land. Until we hear them say land or mini land or attraction, I'm not ready to say so.
And honestly, and we've talked about this before on the show, and this is where, again, going back to our previous conversation, this is where it hurts Disney. It's like they give us this runaround of this shoulda, coulda, woulda, what if this. Just come out and say it, even if they don't have a piece of concept art ready. Just say we're having an Avatar land. It's going to be just as great and immersive as the one in Florida. We're considering on putting it in DCA, God knows why, but I mean, if that's the case, then it's in DCA. Then at least they give us some groundwork that, there's hope.
Do you prefer the way that Disney does things, where they announce things 5 years out, and here's some concept art, it's going to change 5 times before you see it, but we get the early announcements and it kind of, we have to keep the hype up for 5 years? Or do you prefer the Universal way where they just start building and then they announce later?
I used to like Disney's method when they
Yeah.
actually delivered of what they were saying.
Right.
It's like when they first announced it, we get the whole apple. By the time we get down to it, we got the apple core. It's like it's like we just got the core. Like all the other
Star Cruisers, that isn't it? Like I
Yes.
did a lot of videos on that. I did a lot of videos on the Star Wars Hotel off the promise of what they said it was going to be, and then when I started to see what the final result was, like, screw it, that's it, I'm done. I'm not covering this any longer. And I stopped covering it.
Me personally, I would rather them not even really mention anything at all. Let us see them doing some sort of mysterious construction with the construction walls up, and it's like, what are they doing? And then like right at the peak when we're ready to see like the unveiling of it, announce it. Exactly.
Universal way.
Yes,
That's the Universal way.
I think Universal took it a little bit too far with Velocicoaster though.
Oh yeah.
Like the churro cart, you know. I know it's tongue in cheek, but like, announce it. There's a lot of cool concept art. Did you watch the Velocicoaster making of that they had?
I did not. No.
No, I watched that, and there's a lot of cool concept art they had for that attraction. Which, if they'd released that a little bit, like at the 1 year mark, and then again and again, like drip feeding us a little bit, it would have built up more hype. I think they missed out on an opportunity to build up more hype for Velocicoaster than they could have got. But Disney does it the other way. Like, you know, Ratatouille, like, oh God, you know, I'd been on Ratatouille in 2014, no, 2015. It opened in 2014. I went on in 2015. I'm like, great. It was announced in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021. It finally opens. I'm like, they didn't do anything different. Like, am I really meant to? At least Tron I was excited for because I haven't been to Shanghai, so I haven't been on that ride. But a lot of fans have been to Disneyland Paris and have been on that ride. Like, that was too long to build that clone. And Mickey and Minnie's, I will give Disneyland credit. Like, they got that thing up fast. Like, opens in 2020 in Walt Disney World, and the next one opens in 2022. Oh, no, 2023. Sorry, beginning of this year. So
right.
3-year build times fast for Disney.
Yeah, and a brand new queue and everything too.
Everything, and all the changes they had to make to Toontown as well. That was very impressive.
And Jack, I want to ask you because we actually dipped into this as well because we kind of differentiate like whether it's Disney or Universal, what have you. There's a difference between having an immersive experience in an attraction and then you have an attraction that's decorated. For instance, like the Incredicoaster, you know, it's a great coaster just as a roller coaster, but let's face it, it's decorated with the Incredibles.
It's decoration. It's not
the Incredibles on sticks. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So I mean, is that like, do you have that kind of interpretation that there is such a difference between the two?
Yeah. So I'll let you in a little bit of how I go about making my videos. If it doesn't interest me, I'm not making a video on it. and the simple fact is I can't fake enthusiasm. So like the one thing I really struggle with in my videos is early on in the days of making my channel, I was like, hey guys, you know, hi there Waltoneers, I'm Jack, and smile, smile, smile. And over time I've become old and jaded and grizzled, and you know, like I'm just like now I'm like, hi there, everybody. You know, I look like I've been through the wars. Like, hey there. Disney's they're gonna spend $60 billion on something at some point. Dive into it. Yeah, like I look like I've been through it. Like I can't fake the enthusiasm, and I don't know if that's just me or it's a British thing versus an American thing because. You guys in America, you're so like bubbly and with it. Like us British people, we're a bit more.
You should stick around a little more often. You do it.
No, I'm not doing. You know, like in general, like you know.
Yeah, I got you.
It's the service culture, the tip culture in America. Like, have a nice day. It's like that. You know, you're very good at it. I can't do that. I can't. It comes across so disingenuous if I'm like. Hey guys, you know, it's like I can't do the hi there, Waltoneers, and like smile like I'm, you know.
And honestly, and that's where I kind of get, and even further into that, that's how I view a lot of the vloggers because a lot of the times when that camera light goes on, it's like okay, we got to be chipper, we have to be all smiles, everything has to be so positive because it's like they're watching us, and it's like
I've tried doing a vlog and. Me and my now wife, we did a vlog in Disneyland in Galaxy's Edge. We actually vlogged the entire. Okay, so I'll let you know. So we vlogged. We were there for like 4 days, and we vlogged every day. and the only bit that we used was in Galaxy's Edge, because everything was new, so we had stuff to talk about. But like, I'm a very different, like, okay, yeah, when I'm on my channel, I'm very like newscast Jack. You know, I'm just gonna keep it on topic. Here's my insight. Here's my analysis, my explanation of the news. I hold back on I really do put a big guard up around my personality. I'm like, yeah, people don't, because if you show too much personality, you start to put some people off. You can also galvanize some people. Some people like it a bit more, but I try and like, let's stick to the facts. But like in my vlog, like, I'm walking around, and towards the end, I'm like, so I really enjoy that. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife, she goes, "You're gonna ask me how I think about it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah. What do you like?" I'm not good at vlogging, and I filmed for 4 days, and I'm like, I can't stand to watch myself back on it. And it's so, you flip the camera up, and you're like, okay, so I'm stood here. It's so. It's so forced, and the only way I can vlog is if someone was like filming me 24/7, like walking alongside, and they got the natural side of me, not the camera's gone, the camera light's on, and I'm ready to go. You know.
And we've tried it. We've tried it several times. It comes so unnatural, and it's
hard.
like
ruins the experience.
It does.
Yes, I just want to spend time with my family or whoever I'm with, my loved ones. I don't want to. I'd rather have that quality time with my loved ones and come back and talk about it like this.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah, and do it you know, I did the Journey of Water thing, and we just went and did that, and it was good fun. But I didn't vlog it because I knew that I wanted to be there in the moment and experience it. We videoed some stuff, but like videoing it for like get some B-roll is very different to like, I am going to explain it all in the moment. Like, I can't do it. And it's just, I bet people would probably find it more interesting if I did that kind of stuff. I was like a vlogger in the parks, because you would see a whole different side of me. Like, you'd be like, he's a bit of a, he can be a bit of a knobhead sometimes. I bet people would be like, yeah, but he's funny, but he can also be a bit of a knobhead. So like, you know, the difference between the two of them, I think, yeah, I try and everything I do on my channel is scripted, because I try and provide the most insightful, concise format of news. I don't like to ramble like you've got me rambling a bit here, you know, but yeah, it's something different. I can't vlog because of it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Jack. I don't vlog for that same reason. I just, it's not, I'm not built for it. I just can't do it. Now, I want to ask you, this is our last topic of the day. I really want to pick your brain on this, because I am, like, in 2016, 2017, 2018, I think kind of like the lead up into like Galaxy's Edge and all that, I feel like this whole YouTube space with what we do was very different. It felt very different. There was a lot of excitement in the air. I think the overall, the traffic coming into, like, not just our channels, but all these channels were so much higher because the enthusiasm for Disney was so much higher, you know? What do you think, where do you think what we do, where do you think the state of where do you think the state of it is now? Like, is it harder to talk about Disney now because of what's going on, or where do you stand with it?
It's exponentially. So when I started off doing the channel, like, I thought this would, you know, I knew I'd talk about business because I wanted to bring that perspective to it. And, you know, the Fox acquisition was a challenge, you know, educating, you know, hopefully providing insight and education on what was happening with the merger and acquisition and stuff. But like, it was ride stuff. It was attraction news. It was, you know, movie news. It was all that. Now it's such a different, like, the pandemic changed everything. So I had to, like, because if I'm going to talk about something like, you know, COVID and pandemic and the effects it's having on theme parks, I'm going to do my research on it. I like to be researched. And I think in the community now, and I think it's the TikTokification of the YouTube creator now, is like, you don't need to be as researched and knowledgeable. It's more about just getting your voice out there and getting an opinion out there and commentary out. Be damned if it's actually accurate. It just needs to sound good. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing nowadays. And I think it's the TikTok. TikTok democratized everybody having their own voice. And I like to say, you have the right to voice your opinion, but you're not right in your opinion. Like, a lot of people think, because I have this outlet, I must be listened to and I must be correct. No, you're going to annoy some people. Some people are going to disagree with you. That's the discourse of civil, society. But when it comes to what it's happened within the Disney community now, with the whole culture wars, the woke debate, the divisive political environment, the pandemic. I did a video recently about climate change at Walt Disney World, and it wasn't met very well. It was met very poorly. I lost probably around 300 subscribers from it.
Wow.
That was disheartening to see 300 people drop off. And I also got some blowback from people being like, you just didn't sing terrible. I'm like, well, why can't we just, I've cited my sources, and I've said, I cited them in the description. I'm like, disagree with me like that, on the actual sources. There's this kind of immediate response nowadays where if you don't agree with something, that person must be completely wrong. We can't debate, and it's one-sided. Like, you're not on my team. It's a tribalism that's happened within the community, and if I'm being totally honest, I think my tribe, if I'm going to call them a tribe, my audience, the tribalism aspect, it's shrunk. My audience isn't what it used to be. The amount of audience that I could have got in the past is definitely smaller now. I don't get the views that I used to get because people during the pandemic, they're like, oh, this guy believes in the science of how a virus spreads via aerosol, via aerosols, and stuff like that, because I was advocating for social distancing. Oh, how dare you do that? And I'm like, well, we don't have things like that. These things 10, 20, 30 years ago wouldn't have been divisive. Nowadays, with the democratization of everybody being able to be able to speak to such large audiences, which has given me a living, has also brought the downside of everybody won't listen to other people now. And we're all in echo chambers, and there's an echo chamber within the Twitter Disney fan community, and 100%. It's definitely segmented and divided up. And it's about which parts of the audience can you pull in. I've always tried to keep my opinion out of the news I cover, because I'm like, well, I'm just trying to present facts here and information. And when I talk about something like climate change or pandemic or anything else, or like, the whole DeSantis, I didn't really cover the DeSantis thing, the whole DeSantis, Reedy Creek stuff. I covered it once, and then I didn't really cover it again, because I saw it as, this is very political. Okay. This isn't just about what's going to affect Disney. This is someone who is going to be running for president eventually, and do I want to make my channel a pseudo promotional platform for a political candidate? And so I stayed away from it from that perspective, because I was like, no, my channel's DSNY Newscast. It's not politics newscast. And so I don't want to try and get into giving a presidential nominee a lot of coverage. So I stayed away from it. I even actually stayed away from covering Trump being put into the Hall of Presidents. And I stayed away from Biden being put into Hall of Presidents, because I was like, both of those, Trump and Biden, they're politicians at the end of the day. And I've got my own political beliefs, and I've got my own, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to create my own channel, which is going to be something political, and people are going to subscribe to it for politics. I don't want to do that on DSNY Newscast, but I thought something like climate change or the pandemic, these are things which are global issues, which aren't red states and blue states kind of issues. These are things which are all, no matter what happened, the pandemic affected everybody's lives around the world. Climate change, whether you agree behind the causation of climate change, whether you can agree on anything, the climate is changing to some degree, and it's going to affect all our lives. The amount of natural disasters we're seeing, all this sort of stuff, is affecting our lives to some degree. So I thought people could agree on that, and yet they couldn't. And so it's a very divisive place we're at within the Disney news community and news community in general. But it's not a rosy outlook, to be honest. Not a pretty outlook.
No, it's not. It's not. And I kind of made a comment on Twitter where I was saying, you can't say culture without cult, culture war without cult, because that's kind of what it feels like, right? Like these team.
That is the definition of culture, isn't it?
Right.
It's kind of, it's about the tribe of am I part of this community? It's that kind of thing.
Exactly, 100%. And it's sad to me when you say something like, I made a video about climate change and people didn't like it and you lost what, like 300 subscribers. It's like, really, like, people can't watch a video and say, hey, you know what? I've been a subscriber to Jack, but on this video in particular, I disagree, and just leave it at that. You got to unsubscribe off of one video. I mean, that's absurd. You're so right. The echo chambers are so crazy and so intense now, where it's driving people to unsubscribe off of like differences of opinion like that.
I mean, I'm fine with them unsubscribing. They are using their voice to unsubscribe. That's their vote, that's their protest vote, and that's to be expected. But what puzzles me is I think a lot of people just saw the thumbnail, climate change, and they thought unsubscribe or comment without watching the video. Like, they didn't even watch the video. They just said, no, it's a hoax, and just decided to write their comment. They didn't watch and see what I had to say. And I changed the thumbnail now to something about extreme weather, because I'm trying and let people at least watch and see what I had to say, because the video wasn't really just all about that. It's about how is Disney World going to adapt in the next 30 years? Because if you look at the historical data of 1971, the average temperature, versus 2021 with the average, or 2020 with the average temperature, there is a couple of degrees difference over how hot it's become over the last 50 years, and over the next 30 to 50 years, it's going to get a little bit hotter again. And so, what are Disney going to start doing when it's they need more shade in the parks, and there's a lot more rainfall because there's more, the higher the temperature means for heavier rainfalls. What are they going to do? They already have issues of flooding, stormwater flooding in the parks when they just have a normal summer. So, I was just trying to raise an interesting topic, and the reason why I discussed something like that is because if Disney had more news, I probably wouldn't have the time to go off and research something like that and put a lot of time into a topic like that, even though it interests me, because I would be so busy with the news cycle. But there's not much going on at the moment. I don't want to talk about, I want to stay true to what the channel's about, right, which is talking about Disney topics, Disney adjacent topics. And I thought that was an interesting one. Yeah. But, it is what it is. I'm fine with people having their, I don't really, I only ever kind of censor things in the comments if it's like swearing, like a lot of swearing, or it's like bullying of other people. I get rid of that kind of stuff. But like most part, how many people I've got blocked on Twitter? I've got like 8 people blocked on Twitter, and I've got like 24,000 people on my 23,000 people on my Twitter, and I've got like eight accounts blocked, which is pretty good, I think. Which is pretty good. I don't really mute many people as well. Like, I've got like maybe another like 10 muted, which is, I think, pretty low. I don't instantly, if I disagree with someone on Twitter, I don't be like, right, that's it, you're going to be blocked, because it's an echo chamber. It's not good to do that. It's good to hear debate. It's good to hear the other side.
100%. Yeah, it's healthy. It's absolutely healthy. Yeah. You want to hear the other side
to do it.
Right, 100%. George, thoughts on that? Echo chambers and kind of this whole culture right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're in a time where it's like you almost have to feel that sense of censoring yourself. It's like, what can you really say to what particular person on what particular day? It's like you almost have to have a scripted dialogue like with you 24/7 to say, okay, here's a list of things that you can say, here's a list of things that you cannot say. And I'm all about, as far as going too far with, you don't want to, as Jack had mentioned, no bullying, right, no racial slurs, that has been there since, the beginning of time. But there is such a thing as a common ground where even like with comedians, comedians nowadays have to really watch and censor how much they can do, as opposed to,
they're doing the phones in bags kind of thing, aren't they? Where they like lock the phones away now, because they're like, you want freedom of speech, then I also want freedom of being recorded. I want to they want, and there's that kind of privacy thing, and the aspect of that, and there is a cancel culture out there, And it happens on both sides. Both sides of the political spectrum have a cancel culture. And it's just not good to have a cancel culture in any civilized society. It's not good to be like, I disagree with you, so I'm not going to, like, for an example, on that video which I brought up about the whole, climate change at Walt Disney World, you can go through that and read the comments, and there's a lot of comments out there saying, Jack, I disagree, or I don't, this is a hoax. I've left the other side to have their say, because that is what you should do, because we owe each other enough to be able to say, yeah, you have an opinion as well. I may not agree with your opinion, but you're entitled to it. And I think that Diz Twitter is, I think, probably one of the worst places. At least I don't really see other Twitters, so I don't know. I can't comment on Diz Twitter versus other fan bases of Twitter, theme park Twitter in general. I think it's very explosive and tribal in the way that it goes about. Like, I'm in this tribe, you're in that tribe, we're going to go against each other, cancel culture kind of stuff, and it's just not healthy for any kind of society.
No, and it's terrible. It's to the point where it's almost like, oh, you're following this person, so now you subscribe to everything that person says, and that person is problematic, or this person, and it's like this extremely toxic sort of environment where, maybe we can all maybe agree and disagree on certain things, but kind of come to a common ground on other things, But this current culture doesn't allow for that. You're like all in on one tribe or the other. And it's like, it's frustrating. So yeah, but Jack,
I basically take Diz Twitter like the final battle scene in Braveheart. It's like you just got like two ends of the spectrum, and we're all just wearing like war paint and everything, and it's like we're just ready for battle.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But Jack, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And I had a great time. We had a great time talking to you. So thank you so much.
I've had a fantastic time talking to you both, Chris and George. I've really enjoyed the chat. And to be honest, I'd love to come on again. If you're willing to have me back, I'd be willing to come on again. We'll do this again on a different topic at some point in the future. But no, it's been fantastic. I really do enjoy a normal chat like this where you can just talk freely and stuff like that. Hopefully I haven't annoyed upset too many people, but
well, and welcome to our channel where we just we don't care, but it's like
we just talk and we just have a good time. So
and that's the beauty part, and that's the beauty part, which I actually got into Orange Grove 55's channel, because he just brought something to the platform that was just like so different and so unique. It covered topics in a way where it was more organic. It wasn't just like sugarcoating put on. He spoke his mind. He meant what he said, and I'm so glad that he gave me the opportunity to come on his channel, have my own sort of platform on it. And this is what we do on every given day. It's like we just kind of come on, we have like our coffee talk discussion, and whoever wants to join us is more than welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Jack, it's been a pleasure. As I said, you're always welcome back on. And if you can just remind everybody at home where they can find you on social media so they can subscribe and follow you.
Just there. That's the name there. Just type that into YouTube or Twitter, and maybe subscribe or follow. If you don't want to, so be it.
And George the Italiano, you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, and you can give us that really cool tagline too.
Absolutely. And before I do, Jack, I was so glad to have you on the channel. I was like, I know you may not see it, but I'm actually geeking out inside. It's like I'm kind of sweat, and for you, I'm kind of sweating in my knickers right now. So it's
knickers.
But in any case, if you'd like to find me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can now also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with this guy right over here, as part of my Citrus Corner. That I cover Walt Disney World, the Disney Cruise Line, and it covers all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There you go. So comment down below, everybody, on all your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Walt Disney World, Josh D'Amaro, the culture war, Diz Twitter, the community, everything we talked about. We would love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks again to Jack for coming on and talking shop with us. And again, the Italiano, thank you so much for joining. Comment down below. And thank you for watching OG 55.